What's going on? Welcome back to Fanatic Journey. So today we're going to talk to you on Rivian. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what is really affecting Rivian, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So right now, Rivian is down 6.87%. Market's been open about 45 minutes and 21.2 million shares have been traded. 44 is the average. So today is going to be a very heavy volume day. So big money's buying the dip. So that's always a very positive sign. These are some of the transactions that have occurred so far on the secondary market, once again to kind of match and indicate that big money is really looking at Rivian. There was a big one first thing as well, so 33.4 million. Aside from that, the reason why Rivian is going down is just because of broader fears. So a lot of analysts have started to come out saying, you know what, things are too high, it does need to consolidate. The overall trend is still there for it to continue to trend up, but there does need to be more so consolidation. And I think that's linking to the technicals. So in a lot of stocks, as you can kind of see, just things are heated, overheated. And I guess the EV sector is more of a bad example of that because it did get hit quite hard, especially Rivian after their earnings. But as well, there seems to be more competition. So Tesla, whatever happens to Tesla, the good, the bad, and the ugly, does trickle down to other EVs. And there seems to be a price war that is happening in China within EVs. BYD and Tesla and NIO. So that definitely is going to be a very interesting scenario how that does play out. And all in all, that's what is affecting Rivian. And plus, I'm sure there's going to be more analysts jumping on the negative bandwagon and starting to say, you know what, things are going to get worse before they get better, blah, blah, blah. That's usually what does happen. But aside from that, there hasn't been any specific news. There was this that came out on the 27th, but nothing really to write home about. No reason to really sell Rivian or buy Rivian. And as far as any SEC filings, the last one was done on the 26th, so that was just a S8. Unofficial news though, a lot of people seem to be really focusing on this. So I saw this floating around on social media, just on a story of a Rivian R1T making a pretty long journey, so 3,200 mile journey. So overall, I think that is a fairly good thing, good marketing, and maybe people might be really a little bit more responsive to this rather than just fluff PR coming out from the company itself. So I see that as a very positive sign. As far as shorts, they are piggybacking off of the negativity today. So shorts are increasing about 611,000 shares. 18.28% of the free float is being shorted. 125.64 million shares overall are being shorted, and cost of borrow average is 0.99%. And of course, as I've brought up in the past, I don't see Rivian being a squeeze play. I'm just merely bringing this up as a benchmark and how to analyze. So for instance, shorts increasing on a red day kind of validates the red. So kind of all in all, not really the best. And as far as through Interactive Broker, short availability does indicate around 900,000 shares is available to be shorted. So shorts getting into Rivian is something to kind of watch for, because going back over here and just getting rid of all the unnecessary stuff, shorts have been really doubling down. And over the history of Rivian, this is at all-time highs essentially. So something once again to kind of consider. But aside from that though, there hasn't been any new analyst ratings, and just a lot of news associated to ambulance chasers, so lawsuits or potential lawsuits trying to get more information, just I guess a class action against Rivian due to whatever reasons. I haven't really looked into it all that much, but like I mentioned, no real analyst ratings. Last one was done right here, which was 6 days ago. So Morgan Stanley, Adam Jonas, a buy rating and a $14 price target. So Adam Jonas definitely has been very bearish on the EV sector, with the exception of Tesla. So the fact that he's giving a $14 price target does insinuate that probably should be realistically double that. That's just my own interpretation, but as a consensus among all analysts, there's an assumption for it to be $17.70, and that does represent a 66% upside. So let me know your thoughts on that and give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying Rivian over the last little bit? Are you taking advantage and buying the dip today? What's your thoughts on all of that? Just to quickly go over here on Interactive Brokers. On a side note, I do have a link to them in the description below for all of this information to be completely free. But as far as the Elliott Wave technicals, which is a very popular way to kind of judge technicals, it does have a pivot point of $13.20. So for as long as it is below $13.20, which right now it is, then it is anticipated a further breakdown to $6.40 to $7.50. So that is kind of extreme in my opinion. But aside from that, moving on, looking at options, $7.6 million being purchased in calls, 1.25 million in puts. So big money is getting into Rivian today through physical shares and also options. The only negative caveat to this is looking at the sentiment. All the options being done so far today are bearish. So 76% of all the options are bearish. Not necessarily the best. Maybe it is piggybacking off of this Elliott wave technicals. I'm not really sure. Aside from that, looking at some of the call options that were purchased or are being purchased today, there's a consensus for it to be above 1150. So a little less optimism than the last several weeks as far as a recovery. Looking at puts, it is anticipated for it to be sub $10 by the end of this week. So once again, more of a consolidation overall. But looking at some of the support and resistance points right now, with it at $10.60 and the low so far of $10.55, you really want to watch this 1040, so this S1. So right now it's trading between this S1 and the pivot, and in fact it did bounce off of this pivot, so 1106, and the high was 1108. So in my opinion, I feel like the negativity might be kind of running rampant because this whole week there isn't really anything to kind of drive or disrupt the broader market. So it is just merely going to be the technicals that is the driving factor. So if things are turning negative right now, then this is where you could see a touch of this S1. And if this does fail to hold, then you'll see a potential new 52-week and all-time low of around $10, which right now is 10.05. So just take a mental note of some of these support and resistance points right now, but looking on the actual chart, it is lower percentile of the Bollinger Band, below a lot of the key pivotal moving averages as well. Stochastic is at 20, so that is considered oversold. So if there's a good piece of news specific to Rivian or the broader market, but I don't anticipate anything on the broader market aspect, but if that does happen, you will see a rush of value investors. And of course, in turn, it should go up from there. But number of investors or retail investors have been getting out over the last little bit. So let me know your thoughts on Rivian. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying, especially after their earnings? What's your thoughts on that? I know I did do a couple of videos since their earnings. I was, and I still am, generally very optimistic. Just the level of optimism, especially for 2024, has diminished like night and day. I actually thought that Rivian was building such a strong foundation, but the fact that they cited that they have to really cut on costs is just not the best, and that's something that they've been citing over the last several quarters. But at the same time, they came out and said, like, we have massive demand, so I think that took forefront of everything. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on Rivian. No matter what, I think over the last earnings with Rivian and Lucid, it did indicate and really show that EV, if you're going to truly invest in the EV sector, it's going to be a long-term play. It's not going to be turning and getting to $50 within 2024. But what do I know, right? I'm not a financial advisor. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. And one final thing, even though Rivian is selling off, take advantage of this promo. So simply sign up for an account with Moon with, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. Take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.